Hey everyone, Joy Brooks with Email and Coffee. We're continuing our conversations about what's your ESP, why is your ESP, and all those questions that go into being and working being an email marketing specialist and working with an ESP. I'm talking today with Mary Kaufman, who 12 years ago, we just went through this conversation. 12 years ago, Mary and I worked together. That's at least how long Mary's been in email marketing. I go back probably another 12 years, but that's besides the point, boys and girls. Mary, we found out through our conversations, but the audience doesn't know, what ESP are you currently using?
We are currently using Klaviyo.
And what are you doing? What's your business? And what are the, we talked about verticals. Like, tell me a little bit what you're doing.
Sure. So I work for a company called Curve Breakers. We are a tutoring test preparation company. We are partnered with schools as well as have our in-office services for families and things like that. So we do have a bit of a B2C and a B2B environment happening. Our B2B would be schools, which is very difficult to market to actually. And then we have our B2C and our families. And so Klaviyo is primarily used for the B2C part because spam filters with school districts are not really receptive to receiving mass emails. So they often disable all the links if I even am able to get through a spam filter. And so they get no clicks, and that's very bad for our email stats. So I tend to stay more with the B2C with Klaviyo. And so I'm selling anything from tutoring packages to trying to promote class registrations. We do have some products like books and study guides and things like that. And so we also have Shopify to handle all those online e-commerce sort of situations. And so Klaviyo is integrated with Shopify.
Yeah. Do you have digital classes?
We do. We have some. They were very popular during COVID, but then there was a big pushback against virtual instruction. So people wanted to be in person. We're sort of straddling this fun moment of becoming more of an online services educational company as we move, outside of our metropolitan area. So we have some recurring online classes, but most of them are in our office.
Okay. So we had talked about the fact that you're on Klaviyo, but now that you're on Klaviyo, how's that working for you?
It's working. So what Klaviyo offers us is just a very straightforward, solid platform. There's no crazy bells and whistles. It handles the data relatively well. The segmentation tool does just about what I needed to do. It's easy to import lists, create segments, build simple campaigns. I'm not doing anything wild. We are a very small company, rapidly growing, so our marketing is not super sophisticated. So Klaviyo kind of just does the job. The thing that attracted me to Klaviyo originally was its billing structure. And then it has to do with the reason why we left the ESP we were with before Klaviyo, because their billing was way more expensive.
Yeah, but Klaviyo billing is changing, but it was what people need to consider is the sends versus the contacts, and sometimes you get banged on both ends.
Yeah. So originally when we switched to Klaviyo, I want to say it was around 2020. It was around the pandemic, maybe shortly, like maybe the fall of that year, somewhere around that time. And at that time, they were only billing us based off of our send size. So if we were able to keep each send under 5,000 contacts, it was like a nominal $100 a month, something like that. Incredibly cheap. So I was like, sold, got in there and looked at the data at the back end, and it seemed, to make sense. So that was really what did it.
Yeah, I gotcha. There's a lot to be said with less is better than more. And, if you're doing email marketing and if you're a small company and you're wanting that huge database and you're thinking that's going to make management more happy, sometimes it's somewhere, there are surprising things that happen. Like suddenly, oh, you mean all those contacts that we have, the 15,000 contacts where only 5,000 answer? You mean I'll have to pay for those 15,000?
Right.
Those 10,000 that are doing nothing? Yes, you will. Oh, okay. Unless you have a large budget.
Right. And so I think that's one thing too that these ESPs assume. They assume if you have a list of 50,000 people, then you can afford X amount of money on email marketing because you're making that much money off of all those email contacts. And like, it's not really the reality, especially for a small business. We had a special instance that happened because of the pandemic. And it is the reason we had to leave Digital, because our email list did balloon. It exploded during the pandemic. So we had this interesting thing that happened where the kids were all sent home from school, but the college board decided that they were still going to make these kids take their AP exams from home without any instruction anymore, right? Or they were getting some instruction, but not enough to keep learning. So what they decided to do was to say, okay, we're only going to test up to 60% of the curriculum, like wherever these kids the consensus was of where they ended in March. And we're still going to offer these tests in May. So the owner of the company, my boss, he had plenty of time on his hands. He's like, what do I do with all this time? He's like, I got to go to where the kids are. I got to see what they're talking about. So he created a TikTok account and got really popular really quickly just by being informative, by being helpful, by listening to kids and what they wanted to hear about. And what they wanted was AP study guides. So we created an AP study guide for every course, and we had them for free. They were openly downloadable. You just had to put your email address in to get the download, and there we go. So that's how our email list just totally exploded. But we didn't quite know what to do with these emails. But we went from an email list of 3,000 to maybe like 55,000 within a few months. And Digital was like, well, you got to pay for that. So of course, and I understand that. But we weren't necessarily making money off of them. We just suddenly had them. And they're also kids, right? They're not really the people that spend money with us. It's usually their parents that spend money with us. So marketing to them is not really, it's not even ethical. It's not helpful. So social media is a better place to connect with kids and kind of drive that end user demand, but it's not really an email. So we needed some time to figure out what to do with these emails, if they were going to work for us. And Digital was like, well, in the meantime, you're going to have to pay to store those in the marketing platform. So that's how we got to Klaviyo, because Klaviyo wasn't going to charge us to keep those 55,000 contacts just sitting there, even though I was only emailing 3,000, then it became 4,000, became 5,000, that kind of a thing. So that's the kind of the really interesting story, how we just had to leave and went to Klaviyo.
It's also a social media study.
Yeah, no, it was really cool because that's just what marketing's about. It's about listening to your market. What do they want? What do they want from you? And we were able to do that. We're a small company. We're always able to pivot as we need to pivot. It just worked out so well. And that really did change our company quite a bit. So we saw the pandemic as a possible opportunity, and we just made the most of it.
Probably also fried his brain a little bit.
It was a lot of work.
I have tried putting some content onto TikTok, just not the right content. And
now 5 years later, it's not really we're not focused on it either. We're going to be focusing more on Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah, it's a very odd platform. Very odd platform. It's okay if you want to cry or, take your clothes off or do something odd. Okay, so let's see. I have other questions. So as I'm reading my questions, because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Oh, can you walk me through like maybe a particular campaign or an automation that might have been difficult otherwise?
I really can't. Klaviyo is we're not doing anything crazy. Klaviyo is pretty straightforward. In some ways, I lost some functionality that we used to use in Digital with personalization and things like that. So I keep it pretty simple. I use basic integrations like sign up forms and things that every ESP has. So no, I'm not really doing anything that Klaviyo isn't, wildly breaking any boundaries for me, but it's just a reliable platform.
What about the, because I know the answer to the question, so I'll ask about it. What about the Shopify integration? How does that work?
So it just works well. Like it's very, very easy to set up, right? I can pull in, so if I have a class that I need to promote, I need registrations low, or I want to let people know that it's open, it's very easy to pull in that product from Shopify, the image, the pricing, whatever I want to pull in, it's already there. So the functionality, the experience for me, it's very easy to build a campaign.
They were well integrated from the beginning. Like I said, I knew the answer to the question.
Yeah, and we don't have a developer on staff, so we didn't need a developer to set up Shopify with Klaviyo. It's really simple.
When Klaviyo first started, they started on an e-commerce platform. That's who they were. They
Hmm.
were the e-commerce solution. They're changing now a little bit, but they were the e-commerce solution. And I believe, I mean, I came in pretty early. Shopify was there from the start. Shopify was there from the start. So if you have a store with Shopify, there are other connectors, but the Shopify was there from the very beginning. So the relationship is pretty solid. I
Hmm.
remember you mentioned Dot Digital. When Dot Digital started, they were partnering with Magento, and
Yes.
it was bumpy. It was bumpy for them. I'm sure that they've gotten over that by now, but
Hmm.
this was, again, boys and girls, over 12 years ago. So this was, quite at the beginning of, let's turn email marketing into an e-commerce platform, more than just a top of mind newsletter, right? And it was a bumpy ride for some. And Klaviyo is very strong in e-commerce. So if you've got a store, if you've got any kind of product that you want to sell, very strong, very integratable.
Yeah, and that was selecting Shopify was also a big decision for us too, because our main site is a WordPress site, and so you would think that we were using WooCommerce, and WooCommerce just was too inflexible to customize. To a lot of our online sales are registrations. I need to collect student name, student email. I need to collect things about the registrant. I need to be able to show it. It just didn't work. Shopify was so much easier to use, so much easier to customize. Using the language is just so much easier than WooCommerce, and so I was using Shopify. So then Klaviyo just made sense too.
Okay. So your tech stack, I mean, to start off with, it's a WordPress website with Shopify and
Yeah, I actually have two websites. So our main website is a WordPress site, and then our registration site, our e-commerce site, is the Shopify. Yeah.
so what are the types of text, what else is in your tech stack? I'm just
Yeah. So
curious.
we use HubSpot
Okay.
for
Okay.
lead generation, lead tracking, and Klaviyo does not integrate out of the box with HubSpot. And we also have a scheduling software, which is where, because we're a tutoring company, so it's where all of our class schedules, tutor schedules, all that kind of data on families and students, the billing, all that lives is in a platform called TeachWorks. And it's not as, it's a smaller platform for our kind of industry, so that's also not integrated out of the box with Klaviyo.
So a lot of manual upping and downing.
Yes. A lot of manual, yes.
Well, yeah, if you don't have a developer, that's what happens. But sometimes, something, I'm going to say something that's somewhat people are not going to like. Sometimes when you get a developer and everything gets overdeveloped, I mean, interesting things can happen. So, very interesting things are at your fingertips, where otherwise you have to manually manage all of that. But you become forgetful of all of the machinations and all the operations and all of the automations that you have in place. And
Hmm.
at some point in time, you've got a bloody mess.
Yes.
And you're out. Can I help you? I'm going to get jumped on any second or barked at. Your developer can sometimes, unless they're totally with you, a Vulcan mind meld, they're totally with you. They're off doing the oddest things. You look at what they're doing, you have absolutely no idea what are you doing and why are you doing it this way. Because I told you it was only a matter of time. Hello, how are you? Yes, I know. Say hello to the people. Hello. So yeah, so sometimes you can. I would almost say you can overdevelop. Keep it simple sometimes. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
And then you're touching everything and you're completely aware of all the data you have. At some point in time, you'll grow and perhaps become too big, and you can't manage it manually. But
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
merely
I
saying,
actually think it's a goal for us in 26 to start integrating some of our platforms a little bit better to cut down and just make the work more efficient for our office staff. And also, I mean, that will definitely inform my marketing too if I can integrate everything
right,
with Klaviyo.
document, document, document. That's
But
all I
yeah,
can
even
tell you.
using like Make, I use Make or Zapier, right? They're actually very difficult to use. If you are not a developer and you don't know that language that they use, some of those integrations are very complex and very difficult to set up. And I've not had a lot of success with it. So the simpler ones I can do, the more complex ones that I need, I cannot do.
Yeah, it's and it is very important. I said it before, but I'll say it again. Document, document, document. And I don't always do it myself. I mean, I'll just do it. And so I'll
Yeah.
document it later.
Yeah.
And later
Totally.
it's like 5 months later. And I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah, that's
So
true.
that's why,
Even within Klaviyo and the flows that I have set up, the drip campaigns, and the rules and what lists they use and what they exclude or include with all that. Yeah, I definitely had to go back and document everything because I just got to a point where there were too many to remember. And then you onboard a new assistant and you've got to teach them, and you're like, oh crap, I've got to download all this out of my brain and
yeah,
pass it over.
it's, no one pays you to do the documentation, but everybody expects you to do it. And everybody expects it to be, it's simple. No, it's not. Because I'm first doing it, and then I need to document it, screen capture it, la di da.
Yeah.
So what's as I choke, I'm allergic to my own dog. No, I'm not. I'm allergic to myself. I'm allergic to life. What is something about your ESP? What's something about Klaviyo? I'm treating it like we don't know the name. Don't say Klaviyo. What is something about Klaviyo that surprised you, that you discovered and went, oh, like when we were working in Dot Digital and we discovered, guess what? You could change a link after the email went out.
Oh yeah.
That was like, what? And not all ESPs can do that, but when you find where it is and you can do it, it's like, oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So anything like that with Klaviyo that you discovered, I mean,
I don't
it's
think so.
layered. It's pretty layered, and sometimes it's not as easy to understand what some functions are there for. Klaviyo
Hmm.
was.
There's been some surprises, but not really great surprises
That's
about how
okay.
things
Share
work.
those. That's okay. Share those.
One of the things, I don't know that I've experienced this in any other platform, Joy, maybe you have. So I create a list, right? I've got lots of lists. Every time I have a class, I have a list, right? I got to communicate things with them. Or I use their parent emails after the fact to let them know about more services, more products. It doesn't remove suppressed emails from my list counts,
Right.
right? So if I'm pulling a segment,
Surprise.
yeah, I'm getting 6,000 contacts, but the only ones that I can send to of that 6,000 are maybe like 4,800. And you have to go through and actually manually select something that says remove suppressed contacts from I've got so many lists, right? So I don't know why it does that. When I create a segment, I don't want to see who I can't email to. That's not helpful to me, right? If I'm doing an A/B test and I want to make sure that I've got enough contacts in my A/B test to make the test worth anything, seeing suppressed contacts in that total is going to change whether or not I can successfully run an A/B test. So,
It's
and I
huge.
told
Right.
them this. I had a little feedback thing with them about some features that they rolled out a little while ago, and I was like, I've never encountered this before. It's really strange. So that's odd. And so whenever I create a segment, if I truly want to see the total send size of what I'm working, I actually have to add a logic that says only include contacts that I can send marketing to, so that it
That's
only
right.
includes active contacts. So that's a little strange to me. And I don't understand why. And I almost wonder too if I'm being dinged on that end for billing, because they're keeping all my suppressed contacts and all my active lists, even though I can't send to them.
That when you said you don't know why Klaviyo does it,
You do
I
know?
don't know. I don't know. I often wondered about that. I mean, they look for ways. Anyone's listening from Klaviyo, let us know. I created an unsubscribe list at one point that I used to exclude from every email I ever sent when I was working in Klaviyo. So
Interesting.
I would monthly run an automation that
Yeah.
would identify them, and then I would, like, you can't, at least when I was doing it, you cannot run an automation that moves anybody into a new list, at least when I was working there.
Yeah, I believe
You
you can do
can
that.
segment them and tag them and do all sorts of things. You
Yeah.
can't move them to another list. I think you can create a new list, but once
Yeah,
that
I
list
don't know
is
if you can move
created,
somebody. You might be able to now.
you might. Okay.
I'd have to go
So
back and look.
what I did was I would run an automation that would run through the master list,
Hmm.
which I kept everybody in a master list, and I ran off of segments. And I would run a segment that would identify that they've unsubscribed, and I'd tag them as unsubscribed, whatever, right? And then I would exclude them. And that's how I ran every campaign.
Yeah,
And I was
that's
like,
interesting.
okay,
Yeah.
these are sometimes um, little surprises that may work, may appear to be a negative, may appear to be a positive, whatever, and they're kludgy to whatever ESP you're running, and you don't know about these things until
Yeah.
until you do. And sometimes when you bring it up to the ESP, they're like they're looking at you, they're chatting with you, and they're thinking, "No, we don't do it that way," and you're thinking, "Well, why not?" Well, put it up on the board and it will, next time we have a meeting, we'll talk about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, talk about
Yeah.
it.
The feature
It
request.
would, you would think that it would be self-evident, but, what, like I said, you don't know, you don't know what you don't know.
It's
You don't
true.
know,
It's true.
like,
That's the pain of selecting any platform. It doesn't even matter what you're using it for. It's just, you just don't know how helpful or unhelpful it's going to be until you're in it.
yeah, and you also don't know why they do things the way they do things. We, having worked together and having white labeled Dot Digital, been on the sort of the inside, we sort of got half truths while the clients get total lies. So we got half truths whereby, we knew that every Wednesday was Rev Day. So we knew, don't mail on Wednesday,
That's true. Yeah. I forgot
right?
about that.
Right? Don't mail on Wednesday. Or if you going to mail, don't forget to do the shift control or whatever, shift F5, whatever it is. Make sure that you totally get the new program because your instance has been totally revamped and you're running
Hmm.
on the old instance and it's not going to work. So yeah, and if we ever ask them why, these changes, blah, blah, blah. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. They wouldn't tell us until
Yeah.
we saw it happening. It's like every Wednesday this happens. They rev on Wednesday. I don't know if they still do. I'm telling Dot Digital secrets. Boys and girls, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, they revved on Wednesdays when it was Dot Mailer. I don't know if they still do, but that they revved on
Yeah.
Wednesdays. Which,
I'd
which
have to
I mean,
say, like, and this probably applies to a lot of people, right? So since I work for a small but growing company, as the marketing director, I'm not just doing email marketing, right? I've got lots of other marketing campaigns and things I need to be doing and thinking about. I have an assistant to help me, but what I need in an email platform is to be simple, effective, and reliable. And so Klaviyo does that for me, right? It's not complex. It's easy to use, easy to get a list in there, easy to build a campaign, test it, like so it just it's and being reliable is important, right? So it doesn't waste my time figuring things out, right? So
if
at the end
you're
of the
out
day,
on
I appreciate
vacation,
it for its reliability.
you don't have to find a genius to work the email platform,
Yeah.
i.e., Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Oh, do
Right.
we have an engineer in the house?
Yeah, an expert on Salesforce. I would love
Everybody
to learn
needs to
that,
be an
but
expert. They make it as difficult as possible. Anyway, and I use right now, guess what? I use Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Okay, so what are the things that I can think about here? Let's make, we sort of discussed type of company and use case for the ESP. So we sort of covered that. We talked a little bit about list size and a little bit about list management. And you mentioned that you're list centric, and I'm going to hold you to that. You don't manage your list. You have smaller lists.
I have
It's
a few
important
master
because
lists.
people
Yeah.
do it differently.
I have a few master lists, right? So we have like the list that's pulling over from Shopify for anybody who consents to marketing as they check out, right? So we've got like that integration, which does really well. We have a Klaviyo newsletter list that is, driven by sign up forms from our website. I actually think Shopify, I have two ways to come over from Shopify. I have the Klaviyo list embedded in the footer. So if they come over that way, they get into this newsletter list. They get a welcome email, they get some coupons. And I think there's another checkbox at checkout that just puts them in some sort of Shopify list. So I got that coming over from there. So those are some bigger lists. I got some general lists. So we have, our HubSpot is any lead that comes into the office calls us, we get their email, our various ways of generating leads. If I don't know anything about them, as far as their students are concerned, like what their age is and things, I would just put them in a general list. But over time, I found it really helpful for me. I organize kids by their graduation year. And that way I don't have to change, oh, they're in 12th grade now and they were in 11th grade last, I don't have to do that. They're just the class of 2026. And so I put in that way, parents have multiple kids, right? So they can be in multiple lists depending on the age of their students. And that way I'm always sending them relevant information. So if I have a junior, not going to be interested in the Catholic high school entrance exam because they're already in high school. Or if they've graduated high school, I'm not going to keep sending them SAT information. So those are our biggest lists. And that's generally how I chop everybody up.
You mentioned it before, and I forgot to remember, but I remember now. HubSpot. So why aren't you using HubSpot?
Oh, for email, it's very expensive.
Okay.
Very expensive. $10,000. Like, it's really, really expensive.
And having used HubSpot, I mean, it's a pretty simple platform. It's a pretty simple platform, but it's expensive.
Yeah, and that's another great example of like we're not making like to directly tie money to email marketing to pay for the like we're already using the sales extension, so we're already paying for that, and then to add on the marketing component and just say, okay, yeah, we're making $50,000 off of marketing, email marketing specifically to make the, you know what I mean? It's just it's absurd. It's not. Doesn't make sense.
And that's important for people to consider. I think if you have a small list, I'm not exactly certain if there's a small business budget for a HubSpot. But, in many cases, people are looking for a CRM that goes directly into an email marketing system.
Yeah, of course.
And so they'll go to HubSpot. Also, they're looking to do social media. So the core of their marketing, if you're a professional, right? And you're starting as a solopreneur and you're going to work your way perhaps into entrepreneurship, but you're not sure because right now you're a solopreneur. That means you're going to be doing it all yourself. You want to make it easier, like a Zoho type of a thing where you've got your CRM, your email marketing. The problem is with some of the lower end platforms, some of the tools are stronger than others. And you don't know until you know that the tools that you're using it for suck.
Yeah. I think when I first started working for Curve Breakers back in 2019, so the company was founded in 2014, and I think those first few years were really just our owner tutoring people in their homes. Sorry, I don't even think he had a physical location maybe until 2017, definitely by 2018. So when I joined, he had HubSpot and somebody was using MailChimp. I think it was MailChimp. And I'm just not a fan of MailChimp, especially coming from Digital. It just wasn't robust enough. I didn't like the way
back then it certainly wasn't.
Yeah.
The lists and the list management was not
List management was really bad back in 2019. So I was like, we're not using MailChimp. So like I said, I think maybe, is there something called SendGrid? I feel like I used a couple other ones before I made my way to
Sendinblue, there's SendGrid, there's a lot of sends.
I don't know if they exist anymore.
SendGrid
so I flirted with a few until I landed with Digital, and then we just couldn't afford it once our list, and then but yeah, so HubSpot has been with us the whole time. And that'll definitely be something that I will want to integrate into Klaviyo once we have a developer to kind of help us with that, hopefully next year. So we have a pipeline. We could easily just start, letting Klaviyo know when somebody's a lead or somebody's a customer and all that kind of stuff.
SendGrid is the backbone for Klaviyo.
So that's why I don't think I was using SendGrid, because I was sure it was
SendGrid is the backbone.
Yes.
When Klaviyo started, they were using SendGrid, and they built off of SendGrid. And, they're still doing it, but I'm sure that the relationship is quite mature at this point. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we talked a little bit about pricing, and we talked about migration. Any other tools that you want to talk about that you're using? The tech stack, like I mentioned, that's sort of important. But you sort of mentioned a few.
I guess the one thing in Klaviyo, Klaviyo does have an integration with Canva. So we use Canva extensively for design. Like I've worked with designers over the years where I have a good general sense of graphic design. If I'm really struggling with something really, really important, or maybe it's like a big 8 foot by 8 foot backdrop I need for a conference, I'll reach out to our graphic design friends. You know, we do a lot of in-house, like all the graphics for Shopify and those, we make those all, mostly have made those all ourselves. And Canva does integrate with Klaviyo. I've not trusted that integration, especially if like AI is involved in creating things from one platform to another. I'm a bit like, so that's an integration I have yet to explore in Klaviyo that I would consider. It's just, like I said, having the time to sit there and play with it until if I figure out if it's really helpful or not. And then, of course, I think Klaviyo is big part of its platform that I'm not even using is its SMS. And I would have to consider getting into SMS marketing before I would leave Klaviyo for another. You know what I mean? I feel like I need to use everything Klaviyo has to offer before deciding if I would go elsewhere. So I can't speak to those two things, but I do get a lot of marketing from Klaviyo about its SMS services.
I would think. I mean, I went to Klaviyo. I migrated a company from SendGrid to Klaviyo. They loved SendGrid, and I was like, okay, so we'll go to Klaviyo. You'll still love it because of SMS. Because at that point, oddly enough, SendGrid wasn't doing SMS. They had a separate division, so you had to do a sort of bolt in, and it wasn't even the same data. It was clumsy. In any case, I think it's different now, but that doesn't matter because we're not talking about SendGrid. But what I was going to say, and it's peculiar to your business, going back to what the owner of the company did with TikTok, I would think that kids would be more susceptible to text messages than they are to email. Not necessarily, so we're not talking about celery. Not necessarily the parents, but the kids would be more receptive. Texting them that that they've got a class, or reminding them that there's a new class, things like that. That would be, I'm telling, I'm giving you marketing advice. That might be something if you want to play with SMS now.
Yeah, I guess just like email, there's transactional and there's marketing, right? Like it's just like, when you go to the dentist and you get 9 texts in the span of 48 hours about your upcoming appointment.
I know. Well, but that's annoying. I'm going to say that's annoying, but we're talking about kids.
I know. So we have, yes. And it's the same thing about like, well, who's the customer, right? And our customer is the parent. They're the ones putting their credit card into the class or the tutoring package or whatever it is. And so it's very complex, Joy. It's just the age of where we are with this generation and generation of parents, who's actually calling the shots, who's not calling the shots, right? And so you've got some parents who won't do anything without their children's consent, right? They're like, oh, I can never get my child to come in and do this. And so we can't possibly pay for the service. And you have other parents who are like, oh, they're coming here whether they want to or not. So it just goes back to the ROI, right? And so if you're spending money on SMS, but it's going mostly to kids, some to kids, whatever it is, but they're not the ones converting, it becomes a harder business decision.
It would be a transactional activity. It would be a transactional activity.
Yeah. And so it becomes, it's more like branding. It becomes more of a branding exercise with kids, generating interest among your buzz, word of mouth.
It's just like the TikToking. It's very similar to the TikTok research and experiment. It's like, what happens when we send kids texts? What happens? Because their friends are going to be like, what are you doing? What's that? Oh, Curve Burgers. Oh, and suddenly, it's spreading all over the place. Oh, I'm sorry. I had a marketing moment. I am the let's think out of the box woman, annoying as I am. This is why I enjoy marketing. This is why I enjoy marketing, and I'm still in it. While other people may be doing what they have to do, I'm always like, I make stuff up. And you'd think that I would be doing marketing for myself, but no. But I am doing the podcast. So there you go. So any last words about Clay?
Joy, I lost your sound. Yep, I think so. I don't know, anything else about Klaviyo, right? Like, I think Klaviyo is a solid platform, especially for anybody who's integrated with Shopify. If they're a small merchant looking to kind of, get more out of their customer base and upselling, and like it's probably ideal for that kind of a small business. Yeah. Yeah. It's and that's important, right? If you're a small business of any kind, right, the amount of time it takes you to make a change is really important. So, and the stress that it gives you or doesn't give you is also really important. Yeah, I think so. They definitely I think they gave me some advice about warming up the IP and doing some test sends. Yeah, I think they were involved with the migration. Yeah, the support's all right. I've reached out to them several times, even in the last few months, just about questions or how things work. They're even if they don't know the answer, because sometimes they don't, they're generally very responsive, or they go out and they try to find the answer and get back to you. So I have no issues with support, and the customer service seems to be pretty genuine. You don't feel like there's just nobody there. It's just bots or AI answering you. They do have the AI support component, but like at the end of the day, if you do need to reach someone, there is somebody that's looking after your questions and does follow up. So the support is good, and that's important. There's chat, and there's also you can email them as well. I don't believe so. I don't know. There's definitely somebody in billing who contacts me every now and then, but no, no one's really like managing or helping with the email part. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I think how a platform manages its data is just so important. Like, I think one of the things that drew me away from MailChimp years ago was that there was like some sort of tagging thing. There wasn't, a clear mapping of the properties. They could be reused, or the values could be, I don't know. It just was very nebulous at the time. And I just very insecure about what I was actually putting in the platform and how I was able to retrieve that data and use it for segmenting. And I can't speak to it very articulate anymore because it was so long ago, but that's really important. And even in Klaviyo, like I know I have a property with the words for school so I can track what schools these kids are coming from, with a capital S and one with a lowercase s. I don't know it shouldn't be possible to create two properties with the same exact name regardless of capitalization. So that's, another thing that's kind of drives me a little bit crazy. But so data is so important. Data is important, how it's organized, how it's maintained, how it's collected, what's being collected. It's just the backbone of any marketing. It's just collecting data. It's like just every interaction you have, it's so important. So I guess if, no budget was a concern, I would just be trying to collect as much data as possible from every interaction on our website to email marketing, collecting it somewhere, having a platform that could make those correlations and what data would be useful to me, and all that kind of things. And then was that? Yeah, I think that's yes. I don't know if you trained me to think that way.
What's the okay? Let's go back. Let's create the campaign from the end.
Correctly. You always need to know what your goal is out of a campaign. Otherwise, you're just wasting time and money. Like what you feel. I mean, yes, marketing is very instinctual, and having your pulse on your customer and what they want and what's driving their decision making and their demand is so important in marketing. But a key component in that is the data. What's the data telling you, right? And even like I can go back and say, oh, I felt like the people who participated in this campaign, they didn't actually start tutoring with us until months later. Like maybe they bought it. And then I went back and looked at the data and that wasn't true. They mostly started tutoring within, I think I found 11 days of purchasing the package. So whatever my observation was, my feeling was about the sale wasn't actually true. So going back and seeing why successful campaigns work, why ones don't work is just important. And having the tools and the platforms that can keep track of that for you are necessary. Our scheduling software is where all our billing is for all our tutoring packages. And then of course we have Shopify as well. So, and then also HubSpot, right? So I have all these data points in their journey that I have to kind of tie in, right? What's the date that they first came to us as a lead? How long did it take them to decide to do a practice test with us? How long did it take to do a consultation? After their consultation, how long did it take them to book? All those. So I have to go, because nothing's integrated, I have to go to each platform and kind of tie those things together and figure out
But
each.
there's
Yes. So now there's AI. Yeah. I started using AI. I use AI all the time for marketing copy, more for writing. But yeah, there's definitely, I can and definitely import spreadsheets into ChatGPT and say, tell me trends, find some trends for me that I'm missing.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like Monday morning coffee break with ChatGPT. I use Claude, and we're quite close.
I really find it funny that because you train these tools over time to talk to you, right? And so even the way that the ChatGPT talks to the owner of Curve Breakers, because of his personality, is different than how ChatGPT talks to me. It's really, really funny. Like he's using, whatever is terminology or slang that the owner's using, and then I'll type in very professional, like I'm writing a professional email to ChatGPT, and so it speaks to me that way, not as like a friend, but as a colleague. It's funny.
It is very. We live in very strange times.
Yeah.
Strange is in good, bad, and ugly, but very strange. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all your knowledge with me. It's been a pleasure remembering, or maybe, remembering to forget. No, remembering. And I hope to see more of you.
Yeah, I'm here whenever you have a question. I probably have a lot more questions for you than you would have for me, but I'm around.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much for the 59 minutes for the hour that you've given me.
Yeah, of course.
I will talk to you soon, and that's a wrap.
All right, thanks, Joy.
You bet.